So welcome back. Welcome back from the break. Up next, we have Mishaal Khan. With a deep understanding of the bits and bytes to the business process, Mishaal uses his experience and skill set as an ethical hacker, OSINT, and social engineer to help customers secure their organization and solve real-world challenges. He spoke at premier conferences like Black Hat, DEFCON, Wild West Hacking, TEDx, and SANS. His topic for today is GeoINT Mastery, a pixel is worth 1,000 words. After this interactive talk, you will never see images the same way again. Now that sounds interesting. This enlightening session explores the dynamic realm of GeoINT, Geospatial Intelligence, that unlocks a wealth of hidden insights within images and videos. He will go deep into the art of image analysis, learn how to decode the language of trees, signs, text, and logos, and uncover the strategic implications of using common browser tools. This talk promises to equip you with mind-blowing skills for us to learn. Next time when I take a picture, I'll be thinking about all of this. So please hand it over to Mishaal.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm glad there's a microphone here because I was screaming at my previous talk and I've lost my voice. So let's raise this just a little bit. I guess not. All right. So GeoINT, as some of you may know, is a subset of open source intelligence. And my background comes from a very diverse set of skill sets. I've been a pen tester. I've done a lot of work on the network side. I understand how things work very well from a systems perspective, and I kind of then start abusing how things work in order to kind of extract more information from it. That's essentially where my OSINT mentality comes from. But today we're going to kind of touch upon a lot of other aspects of OSINT. So look at OSINT holistically, and you see, people search websites, you see vehicle records and government site lookups and crime data, cryptocurrency, you name it. There's a lot of data out there, including breached records, but there's also geospatial intelligence. There's also information you can extract from images, which I'm going to show you today. So all of the stuff you see on the screen is primarily, OSINT and advanced OSINT stuff. But today we're going to just focus on GeoINT, as they call it. So a very niche field, a very cool field, and like you said before, you're not going to see images the same way after this. So let's get started with what you're going to kind of take out of this. So GeoINT is especially different because you need a lot of skill sets. You need an understanding of language, geography. You need a lot of pre-existing tools and links and know where to find stuff before you can even get started. A simple Google search will not help every single time if you want to be an expert. You need local knowledge, and you need to think outside the box. Look at something that's different, unique, shadows, little things that stand out. So I'll show you all of that with examples. So let's start with the most basic thing we do in GeoINT. We usually have a picture, an object, or whatever, and we put it into Google and see what Google comes out with. That's usually my step one in finding anything. So reverse image searches, there are so many tools available for this. There's not just Google. And the first lesson here is have lots of tools available so that you're not stuck anywhere and you can always pivot off to the next one. So I'll show you a demo of a face. So facial recognition, we take it for granted, but let's look at how algorithms look at things and not how humans look at things. Just to give you a sort of example. Who do you think this is? Can you identify this person without his face? Anyone in the audience want to take a guess?
Is it you?
Is it me? Close. When you know who it is, I'll be like, I'm pretty glad you said me. But no. It's very hard. Like, for professionals even to look at this, I'm like, I don't know, maybe look at the background, there's some like jar of nuts, where is he sitting, who could it be? Let's put it in Google and find out, like, let's do a reverse image search. So I right click, I have a plugin, and you see me go through that plugin, and it searches like 7, 8 different reverse image search websites, the ones I had in the previous slide. I just need to now click on the browsers, and I'm really not doing anything here. This is automation. It's going through Google search. So Google's, what is it called? The first Google search didn't find anything. The second one found his name. It says Charlie Cox, which is the Daredevil, so yeah, close enough. And it found the actual images. As you scroll down, it's like, yeah, every single image is the original image with the face. So I'm like, cool. So the old Google image search found it, the new one didn't. Now, Bing didn't find anything, so 50-50. Yandex found it, the original image. So we keep going on our next one. Now, Baidu didn't find it at all. So we're like, literally, yes, no, yes, no. Tineye found it, even though there wasn't a face. What's the next one here? Is Shutterstock didn't find anything at all. Pinterest, actually there was one image in Pinterest, so Pinterest did find it. PimEyes, which is for facial recognition, obviously didn't find it because there is no face in it. So as you saw, this example was literally 50-50. Like, so expand your searches just beyond Google, and you may see, amazing results, even when there is no face associated with it, just a t-shirt. You have a question? Yeah, go ahead. What plugin was that? So that plugin is, on my previous slide, I'll just put it here again. So the Mozilla Firefox plugin, it's basically called search by image. In Firefox, if you search under plugins, at the bottom it says the actual URL, but it's called search by image, and it's pretty much the only one. So that searches all of those and many, many others in simply a right click and search. And that's what you'll see me do often. So let's go to the next example. Let's go deeper and deeper. So we take Google for granted. Everything is a Google search. In fact, the word search is also called Googling, which it shouldn't be. But that's how it is today. So just to prove to you, Google doesn't have a lot of results. Like, this was by luck. We all know what this is, a Raspberry Pi and stuff. I want to know which country this picture was taken in. Let's say that's my target. That's my goal of GeoINT. All right, I put this in Google, and it has nothing. Like, it didn't give me any results on that exact image. Similar images pop up, but this one is not there. Most people at this point would give up and say, well, it doesn't exist online. Well, let's try Bing, which I'd never expect anything from. But Bing found it. I'm like, wow, the first result on Bing was this exact image. And it blew my mind. I'm like, wow, I never search on Bing for anything, but now I will. And it found it on Flickr. And Flickr, you should know, is one of the only websites that still has metadata in it. So when you upload a picture on Flickr, it shows you an Apple iPhone uploaded it, and the location also shows over there because of the geotagging of the image. So Flickr maintains it for photography reasons and stuff. You want to categorize it. But no other social media will have metadata. That's why I don't really talk about metadata analysis at all. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, WhatsApp, Signal, you transfer images through any one of those means, and the metadata, like you see on the screen here, will be lost. They'll strip it out. Emails will retain it, so if there's a picture sent through email, sure, dig deeper into the metadata, but I won't go in that area yet. Another challenge. Let's do facial searches here. So, what's her name? Is she someone popular? Let's say this is my goal. I need to find what her name is, and all I have as my seed information is this picture. So, based on my regular workflow, I'm gonna go through that link that I had, go through all of the reverse image search websites. So let's do it. Bing found nothing at all. Yandex found nothing, similar images, but it's not her. Went to Google, and surprisingly, 0 results. Like, Google usually doesn't show you 0 results. It'll find something similar, but in this case, empty. I thought this was an error. I refreshed the page a few times, nope, nothing at all. So, all right, keep searching. PimEyes found the image, the exact image, because PimEyes uses facial recognition, it maps the facial features and stuff, and that's how it indexes. So you need to know how different search engines work. So in case of PimEyes, I found it, but what I'm going to do next is take a different image. So all of those images look the same, except one of those at the bottom. So I'll take that image and then I'll reverse image search that, because we've tried the other ones and there was no result. So let's try a different one. So I use that, and almost immediately in Google it finds all the images that are there because that image changed slightly of the same person. So we've pivoted off of one image to another image. I call this like recursive image searching. And once you zoom into that picture, you see the original one, but now you see her name. So the goal is achieved, that's her name. And I can't say it out loud because it's questionable and too long. So for those of you questioning, this is the name of all the Bond girls, and she's holding up a certificate of changing her name officially to this name. So this was a pretty unique challenge. Next challenge. So GeoINT is pretty regional. You have to know some pre-existing regional knowledge to know where to start. So in this example, where is this? Can someone identify just by looking at it within seconds and saying, where was this image taken? Like region. Earth, right. Let's be more specific. There was a hand at the back. Shout it. Can't hear you. Pacific Northwest, yes. How do you know? Absolutely. So yes, it is. And why? Because there's one unique feature in here that identifies it. If you're not from the region, you won't get it. It's the trees. Those giant trees are only found in one place in the US, which is the California region, so Pacific Northwest side. But you put this into a tool and it'll definitely find it, but visually that's the one thing that stands out. Maybe not for me, because I'm not from that region, but for those who are, those gigantic trees are only found in literally one region, and which is the Redwood Valley, California. Those are the redwood trees. So if something's unique and specific to one region, that should be your cue to say, all right, that's what it is. You can take this further and say, the lines in the road are very specific to the US or this region. It's double lines, 2 of those probably only found in California or a few states. Or the solid lines on the side are only found in maybe the US and not Europe. You have a question? Go ahead.
How does region help us in general?
How does region help us?
Because the region's a really big area, right?
Yeah. So how do regions help us in narrowing down our search is the question. My next example should answer that. So let's go to the next example. It's like you've seen this presentation before. So find what's unique is the other technique here. Look for things that stand out, are one of a kind. So in this case, here's a map of crosswalk signs in Europe. And someone figured out that those street signs are unique per country. So I'm like, wow, I didn't know that. So those are things that stand out. So within this picture, let's pick on one that is kind of unique. That little man walking with the little line on his waist. I don't see that anywhere else. So that's kind of unique. What country is this? I don't know. Let's draw a map. A map if you're drawn from memory. That's my little dry humor there. But what is that country? Does anyone know?
Is that Germany?
Germany, yeah. So good. So that's Germany. So to validate this, always in OSINT you need to validate information. Don't take it for granted. I go into Street View of Germany and I actually try to find signs like that, and they're all over. And that sign is exactly the way that map has. So validate things that stand out. I personally would have never known that this is something unique. There's a question at the back. I can't hear you at all. There's like so much background noise. You want to come closer here? And I can repeat it on the mic.
Usually the amount of lines that the pedestrian is walking on is more important than the person, because they vary between countries from like 4, 5, 6, or 7.
All right, so you're saying the number of lines that you see, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, those 5 lines underneath are also
Countries. And also,
nice.
lines
Okay, so yeah, that's good information. There's, he's telling me that there's other pieces of information like the lines underneath that are also unique, the borders, and yeah, absolutely. So these are the type of techniques that are useful in narrowing down the region, like you said, where is this based on this sign, and then we can drill even further, like, identify other things like cars and street signs and roads and people and whatever. Yeah, license plates, so we can go deeper and deeper into that. Let's look at another example of uniqueness, the things that stand out. And when you look at this image, what do you see? What stands out? Yeah. He said it. Anyone else notice something unique? Something about number plate I heard, but yeah, that's unique. Anything else? Cars are backwards, okay. French flag, okay, could be. A lot of things unique. Yes. White center line is unique, right? Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of things unique, and I'm glad I'm getting this feedback because I only picked up on one thing, what you said, that they're driving on the wrong side of the road, quote unquote, or the right side, whatever. So it's the left side of the road, yeah. That's pretty unique. That's what I noticed, but I actually noticed one other thing that none of you mentioned. One of the vehicles. So for those of you who know me personally, I'm a big car fan, and I look at vehicles and a lot of things start going in my mind. I identify vehicles very well. So I see a vehicle in there that's pretty unique and not found in the US. So let's first look at the first comment that was given. They're driving on the left. So there's only a few countries in the world where you drive on the left. There's, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, there's UK, there's some south of Africa, and then there's Australia and New Zealand. If you go back to the image, it says it in English there, the street sign. So it's gotta be Australia, New Zealand, or England. One of those two, not the other countries. Sure, I said South Africa. So south of Africa, right. So this entire region in red, south of Africa, which includes South Africa, is part of that. So, but it looks like an English-speaking country, so we've narrowed down the region, like you said, to possibly 3 different countries: UK, New Zealand, Australia. But to me, what stood out was that vehicle over there. That's a Caprice SS, but it's not, because I can visually see that it's not. So let's do a reverse image search. I'll use a new tool called carnet.ai, and it uses AI to identify vehicles, and it is not accurate at all. So what's my point here? I put in this car, and it says Mazda. I'm like, no, I know that's not a Mazda, that's a Caprice SS. But this tool is trained on US data primarily, so you need to know how tools work and what they're trained on. So this tool failed. It usually doesn't, by the way. It's pretty accurate, but in this case it failed. So I go back to Google, put it in Google, and it does tell me it's a Holden Caprice or a Chevrolet Caprice. So my initial guess was, yeah, it's a Caprice, but it's not a US Caprice because of the logo over there and the symbol of the car. If I search Holden Caprice, it says this car was made in Australia, and it's only found in that region, either Australia or New Zealand. The American version of this is called a Chevy Caprice PPV, and it has a different emblem on it. So I actually picked up that emblem the first thing because I actually have driven that car, so I knew about it. So I'm like, all right, so my first guess was actually Australia when I saw that picture, not even looking at that they're driving on the wrong side of the road. But it's amazing how different people will pick up on different cues from an image. And that's why I said GeoINT is geo-specific. It's your background, it's where you come from. Go ahead. Question.
The car was imported. Did that throw off your search?
Yep, so great question. What if the car was imported? Would that throw off my search? Yeah, it would. So a lot of the times when I'm looking at license plates and I see the same type of license plate all over and then something different, that could all be wrong information. It could be 5 cars have come from Nevada to whatever, and I see Nevada plates everywhere. It's not Nevada, whatever. So you need to take multiple inputs to validate information. This is just a clue in the right direction. This is not validated data yet. So GeoINT is part of a much bigger picture of OSINT, which helps you narrow down your target essentially. And these are some of the techniques that I'm going through that will make you more creative when looking at images. So let's look at another aspect of GeoINT, which is languages. If you know and can read and speak different languages, you have an advantage over others when identifying things. For example, what is this? I mean, this is Greek to me, you're right. I mean, I don't know what this is. But no, jokes aside, I can read, write, speak Greek fluently. So I can see exactly what that says. But to a person that doesn't and hasn't been exposed to this, this was an easy one. Greek, most people have been exposed to the alphabet at least. But to read it and stuff, so where is this? And there's a unique tool that I recently discovered that I want to share with you on how to kind of dig deeper into this, is Google Translate. So Google Translate not only translates text, but also translates images. I personally did not know that. I stumbled upon it by accident, so I would like to share it with you. So there's a images section on the top left. You click on that, you upload an image, and on the left you see the original one, on the right you see the translated image version, which to me is like amazing. It's like they've superimposed the actual text in the right position, and now we can see translated text. I'm like, wow, this is good. It's pretty accurate. Cafe doesn't mean coffee. It says literally cafe over there, and we can kind of make that out that, yeah, it's not coffee. It should be saying cafe. So it's not accurate, but it's pretty darn close. And even if it's not accurate, you can at least get the language. So it says it auto-detected the language as Greek on the top left. So my mind was like, all right, what if I throw other things at it? So this is truck art in India and Pakistan. They have this. So this is specifically Urdu. It's written. It's an image from Pakistan, and you see a lot of truck art like this. It has poetry written at the bottom. It has some information on the top, maybe some business information and stuff. I'm like, let's see if Google Translate can pick this up from an image, and it does a fantastic job at picking it up. It identifies it as Urdu. I scroll down a little bit so you can't see, but it set the language on top. But you see the English text underneath, and I can read both languages, so I can see that is very, very accurate in the translation. And this is not just basic text, this is poetry. It's really hard to translate poetry like that. I wish I knew about this tool in high school. I would have gotten all A's. But yeah, it exists today, so use it. So let's start with a few challenges. Let me see how I'm doing on time. All right, we're good. So I like to learn from challenges. A lot of people ask me, how do you learn these techniques? How do you expand your knowledge set? Through challenges. I like posting challenges online. I like solving things which people didn't ask for. I just do it anyways. It's just makes it fun. So one of the challenges I did was, so this was not a Zoom call, it was a Teams call or whatever, one of those calls. And it was a group meeting, and I was getting bored, as we all are on these webinars. And this person was speaking, and my mind went towards the background. I'm like, I wonder where he is. As like everyone, I wasn't paying attention in the meeting, so I was paying attention to the background. And I'm like, let me see if I can geolocate and identify where this person is. And I had an idea. I knew he was in Texas, so you need to have some pre-existing knowledge to be good at GeoINT. And this is that pre-existing knowledge I had, but I didn't know exactly where. So I'm like, all right, let's start the search. So I'm like, that building on the left is pretty unique. It's popping out, and that little thing, that dome-shaped stuff on the right, looks like a Capitol building or something. So if it's Texas, it's likely going to be Austin, the capital. So these are all assumptions right now that I'm making in my mind. And mind you, assumptions are good in GeoINT because it points you in one direction, otherwise the entire world is open to you. So now that I have a narrow enough region, and I could be completely wrong, I could be wasting 20 minutes and then go in a different direction, but let's start somewhere. So that's my assumption, that this is Austin. Now I start searching this on in Google image search, and as I start searching, you can actually narrow down your search area into specific regions. So I narrow it down just to the building, and I wait for some stuff to pop up on the right. And I see some buildings that are kind of similar, but not exactly the same building. So I kind of keep looking, and I put the word Austin underneath, so in case it pops up and it's a different angle. So I'm using two techniques here. Now I start expanding the area, I get different results. It takes a lot of back and forth for this process to work, but eventually when you visually spot it, you basically just start clicking on those images and seeing if it's maybe a different angle of that building. So I clicked on one, there was a Facebook page, and it was a different angle, but I actually see that, yeah, that's likely the same image. And then I do another recursive image search on this, and I say, let's find where this image is. And it clearly shows me an address there in Austin. So I put in that address and go to Google Maps, and I identify that image, that building rather. And in Google Maps, you can go under the advanced section there, the more, and click on globe view. Now you get a 3D view. You don't need to open up Google Earth Pro for this. You can just do it in here. And now I try to get the same angle that my friend was in that video call, and I identify that building. I also identify that little Capitol building on the right, and now I try to line it up. As I'm lining it up, I kind of notice that he's likely in that blue building in the center, because there's a little car park building on the right, which looks exactly the same. So the elevation looks very similar. So he must be in this building. That's literally the only building that has that height. So I kind of figure out what that building is. Is it a housing or a hotel or whatever? It seems to be. And I kind of click through more. This process takes a little back and forth, but it's worth it. So as I go through this, I identify what hotel that was, and you'll see me click here, and it was the Sienna at the Thompson. And then I chat with the guy and I say, are you staying at the Sienna at the Thompson? And he's like, yes. Full stop. I don't think I spoke to him ever again after that. But it's fun. It's fun being right. It's fun being accurate, and it refines your skills. I learned a lot from that little exercise, refined it a bit much. I learned that you can narrow in on objects, and even if you move it by a millimeter left or right, it gives you completely different search results. So that's the takeaway I had from that building reverse image search. But you see, when you see it in practice done, it's not impossible. It's actually extremely easy looking at a picture and saying, I can tell you exactly where this image was taken. If I spend maybe another 15, 20 minutes on this, I can tell you exactly what floor it was taken on based on the elevation, based on the angle I see on the left over there, on how high he is. So there's, the more time you spend on this, the better you get. So let's try a tough challenge. This was a challenge. When I looked at it, I'm like, holy crap, this is impossible. And that's what motivated me, saying I'm not going to give up. I'm going to try my best at this. So the challenge was, somebody posted this image and said, where is this taken? Like, exactly where is this? I'm like, man, this is taken from an airplane. There's no symbols in here. There's no unique buildings or logos or names I can identify. I can see the plane tip, and sure, it's in the US. It's probably one of either United or Delta or whatever. I don't care, but it's the location I care about. And they tagged me in this as a challenge on LinkedIn. So I'm like, all right, I got to do this. So I zoomed in. I said, let's do a reverse image search. That's where I always start. This can't be that hard. So I looked at that unique thing on the right, that the roads and stuff. I'm like, surely there should be something there. I see like a baseball field somewhere there as well. I'm like, all right, this is on the left. It looks like a runway, like a small, tiny regional airport. So I'm like, okay, I'm kind of getting somewhere. So let's keep digging. So I do a reverse image search, and I focus my search on the most obvious part, which is the lower right part of that thing. Maybe there's an image of that, area mapped out somewhere, and I may get lucky. So I try that. I look on the right. This, by the way, took me 40 minutes to do. So this is the longest I've ever taken. That's why I'm showing the process now. So I looked at that and I couldn't find it. Then eventually I moved to that little runway. And then I said, what's unique about that runway? Because I got millions of results. What was unique about it was, when I zoomed in, there's some stuff on the top left that, and there's a little road on the right side of it, like a little curve, like a triangle. So I'm like, all right, let's only look for that because there were so many results. I'm looking for a little triangle, and I'm looking for some buildings, which is right next to the airport. And I actually spotted it. It took me a while though, so this is just a shortcut I'm showing you. I'm like, yeah, that's the same thing over there. So I click on it, and I'm like, all right, this is DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport. I'm like, let's dig deeper. The image there is kind of skewed a little. It's at a different angle. So I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I think that's the one, but let's align it now, side-by-side comparison. So I align it properly. You can rotate it two ways, either go in globe view and drag your mouse around, click control and drag it, or there's a little compass icon on the right too, but it's not as accurate. So I drag it, I align it, and then I try to adjust the angle, and I already see the roads are lined up, that little unique structure on the right for the roads is exactly the same. I'm like, all right, cool, I got it. This is exactly that location. And the last thing I do is I think I change the elevation on this to kind of make sure this is exactly the spot. I can also tell the elevation because it's an airplane. Airplanes fly at a certain height. I can Google that and find that out. And I can even find out what airlines it was. And then there's no tail number, so I can't track it. But I know the time of the flight, rough time. I can kind of tell where this person was going. And I did guess because when I zoom out, I knew from their LinkedIn profile where this person was located, somewhere on the west. And they were flying for an interview to Chicago, because you can see here clearly. So I can see the flight path here as well. But I stopped here. I can easily go into all the flight plans that were going to Chicago from that location and see exactly what flight number she was on when she landed. And that would be a little creepy, but it wasn't that hard to do. So challenges may seem daunting at first, but if you cut them down into little pieces and have one or two clues and then go deeper and deeper and deeper, you will eventually solve it. So people ask me, like, is there a challenge you haven't solved? I'm like, no. I'm like, this is not arrogance or anything speaking. This is just me saying I'm not going to give up. There are challenges that I have yet to solve. I have not given up on those yet. It's been maybe a year or whatever, but when I give up, that's when I fail. So don't give up, because there's always a new method coming. You may learn something new later on, something that's region specific. You may ask someone who's an expert in this. I've asked so many other friends who speak a certain language I don't, or a different culture they come from, and vice versa. And you'll be surprised at how quickly some people come up with stuff. Like when I asked about that image earlier, I'm like, wow, there's like 5 other things I learned from you guys already. So it's GeoINT is amazing. Lastly, I'll show you one cool technique that we usually talk about when we talk about images is shadows. There's a lot to see in shadows, and it's quite easy though because of the tools that are available. I took this picture yesterday. Where is this picture? Yeah, obviously Las Vegas. Like, yeah, everyone would know. All of your hands should be going up by now. This is extremely easy. This is, yeah, Vegas. It's on the Vegas Strip. If you don't know exactly where, you can literally Google image search this, and it'll show you the Sphinx is probably somewhere next to the Luxor. So that's where it is. So I'll skip you all that hassle because it was meant to be easy. But what time was it taken? Like exactly to the minute, what time was this image taken? There's no metadata, there's no timestamp. All you have is shadows. 6:15 p.m. All right, you said 7 p.m. It's amazing guesses. So just as a rough estimate, you can tell either the sun is rising or it's it's going down. So it's setting or it's rising. So these are one of the two things you have to figure out first. It's a 50-50 chance here. So again, depending on who took this, when they took it, they were tired, came back from Black Hat, it's probably like half the day has passed, so the sun is setting. So the sun rises in the east, sets in the west. So you can pretty much figure out, is it pointing east or west? So that's the easy part. Now, if you look at the shadows, I purposefully took a shadow in this angle because you can see that obelisk thing, and you can see the shadow, and it's roughly the same size as the object. If you look at trigonometry and stuff, and you can look at angles, if it's the same size as the object, the shadow, the sun must be at a 45-degree angle. The sun is at a 45-degree angle when it's halfway from the middle point, the mean point, when it's like maybe 12 or 1 o'clock or whatever, and then halfway to the point where it completely sets. So now we have a rough estimate of maybe the time. Is it closer to setting, or is it closer to the middle of the day? Those are all estimates, and those are very good ways to estimate within an hour or two. Now, if you want to get more accurate, there are tools to do that. So we jump straight into a tool called, Shadow Map. Okay, Shadow Map. So there's SunCalc, there's a few others. I use Shadow Map for this, .app. And the reason I use this is because of the feature I'm going to show you. So I first locate this object, which is the Luxor Hotel, and I find exactly where it is. So I locate that little obelisk. So I found it there. I sped it up just a little bit to save time. And now I look at the shadow, and now I try to align that shadow with my image, and I can align it if I change the time on the right. So it's a little dial, I change it around, and the shadow angle moves, its length adjusts. Now I look at my reference and say the shadow is touching those 3 rows of car park over there, and it's on the 3rd one. So I'm like, all right, let's adjust it on the right so that the shadow falls on that 3rd row on this car park. It's all reference images. So I see 3 rows on the right, or columns, whatever, from here. And now my goal is to adjust the dial so that it kind of points in that same area. And as you do this, there's a little back and forth, and it's quite sensitive, that little dial there. But you can go by the minute and start seeing, all right, at this exact minute, that shadow was touching, that car park slot over there. And you can even count the slots over there. It's like the 7th or 8th parking area there. And that's as accurate as I can get from a length perspective. And I notice the time underneath is 6:04 or 6:05 roughly. So you win. If I had a prize, I'd give it to you because you said 6:15. So that's literally the time. So I actually took it at 6:10. So I got as close to like 6:04 or 5 something. So you can get as close to a 10-minute window on when and where the image was taken just by looking at the length of the shadow. The other thing I'm doing here is I'm changing the month here. So the time is the same, but if I change the month, the shadow angle changes. So now I have 2 variables to play with, the length and the angle. So if this did not line up right, I would then start playing with the angle of the shadow, because as we know, the Earth is slightly tilted, and that's how seasons happen, and blah, 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 all that cool stuff we learned in 8th grade. It's counting now. I wish I had paid more attention then. But hey, we have tools like this now to help us. So as I adjust the time of the year, the angle changes. So when we look at shadows now, we need to look at the angle and the length. The angle will tell you the time of the year, and the length will tell you the time of the day, the actual, to the minute. So this is a very, very powerful tool. When doing investigations, looking at an image, you'll often, find that you can not only geolocate it, you can tell the time it was taken, where it was taken, what weather conditions were at that time, and all that information then goes into your bigger report, and it'll all start making sense eventually. So you may be thinking, how does this little piece of information be useful in my investigative report? On its own, it may not be, but when you have all these separate pieces of information, each one ties into the other in ways you may not know right now, but once the investigation is complete, they'll all make sense. Then say, oh, he couldn't have been at this place because at 6:15 he wasn't standing in front of the Luxor based on this, geo-intelligence on the shadows. So, little things like that matter towards the end. So due diligence is what is required in OSINT and also in GeoINT. So a lot of things, a lot of lessons to take away from this. This is just literally the tip of the iceberg. I can talk about GeoINT for hours and hours and hours, but this is just to give you a little taste of, look at languages, look at, alternate tools, look at what's unique and things that stand out. That's what's going to make you a better investigator. Thank you, and happy hunting. Questions? I have, let's see. Yeah, we have time for questions. 10 minutes.
Have you ever thought about applying AI to automate some of this?
Have I thought of applying AI to automate some of this stuff? I have. There's some AI tools. There's one is called Geospy, I think .com or whatever. It's a pretty good tool. Actually, there was a screenshot of that in there too. Geospy will give you an area, a location, like the redwood trees. It actually said this is in, the redwood zone or whatever. So yeah, AI tools are getting there because they're fed a lot of data. But in a lot of cases, AI will be completely clueless because of other aspects that I mentioned. Maybe it's a language barrier or a cultural thing in a certain image. AI may get there eventually, but they're not. It's not there today. You have a question? I heard Bellingcat only.
Have you seen or used the Bellingcat shadow tool?
Have I seen or used the Bellingcat shadow tool? Yes, I have. So most of those tools are based on similar
It does the
algorithms.
opposite of- Instead of finding the time, use the time and the shadow to find the location.
Right, exactly. So you should have a lot of tool sets in your tool belt. That's one tool. SunCalc is one everyone uses, and I always have like 5, 6 alternate tools to do the same thing because I never want to be dependent on one. What if that tool breaks? For example, SunCalc actually doesn't work, most of the times. That's why I had this alternate tool here. Every YouTube video you'll see, they'll be like, oh, go to suncalc.net or org or whatever it is. It doesn't even have an HTTPS certificate on it, so I'm like, I'm not using that tool. But it's a very clunky. So you need alternate means and have lots and lots in your repository so that you have options. Question.
In the early part of the talk, you talked about having bookmarks and links, and you've talked about having these sources. Is there a reliable place to find such a list?
So the question was, I talked about having a lot of bookmarks and a lot of resources for all these things. Is there a reliable source to get these? One is right here in front of you. Ask me, I'll share everything with you. I'm not that type of person that holds back any information. This is open source intelligence. I'll give you my bookmarks, but there's a lot of tools, a lot of websites out there like the Start Me pages that collect a lot of the OSINT bookmarks, and they'll have GeoINT specific bookmarks. I got a lot from there. A lot are from just trial and error and stuff. So yeah, there's tons available online. What else? Any more? You have a question. Is there an effective way to spoof GeoINT? All right. Depends, because GeoINT is so broad. You could have an image that's zoomed in. You could have shadows. You could have language written on it. There's so many variations of GeoINT. To spoof it is kind of a broad question. So yes and no. So I've spoofed GeoINT by injecting fake metadata into it. So there's a tool called Xcipher. It's, I think, xcipher.net or something. Google it. Xcipher you can upload an image there and type in what you want the metadata to be. So the author, the GPS coordinates you can spoof, and then you can distribute that image on Flickr, for example, or send it via email to someone, and if they do analysis on that image, the GPS will be wrong on it. So that's one way I know to do it. You can alter images as well, so there's many ways to do it. All right, that's all the questions we have. I'll be around at the back if you have any further questions, but thank you for staying back.